don't need that.
All right, Sunset Rewind, back at you with another interview. In case you're wondering why I'm on screen and not Kevin Dull, well, Kevin is a little busy today, but he will be back, especially before the season starts. But right now, let's get on.
Hold on a second, Teran. Don't sell yourself short. If you do a good job, this might be a great opportunity for you. You ever heard of Wally Pipp?
No.
Well, ask him how sitting out a game worked out when Lou Gehrig was his backup. Just saying, this is a big opportunity, so go ahead.
All right, but without any further delay, let us introduce our guest, Dan Albano of the Orange County Register, writer, sports writer for high school sports. Dan, thank you for coming in. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me in, guys.
Dan, we know you're a busy guy, so the fact that you came in to talk to us was much appreciated. Before we get into your backstory, why don't we just read off a list of his accomplishments? In case you've lived under a rock, Dan is one of the top writers for the Orange County Register. In fact, what was your first year starting with the Register?
You know, I think around 93.
93. So in that time, Teran, why don't you kind of list some of his accomplishments?
So he specializes in covering high school football as well as aquatic sports such as water polo and swimming. He also earned the nickname Aqua Dan, and he also covered U.S. Olympic swim trials and many USA water polo events as a reporter. He also has a podcast, the Trinity League Football Podcast with Scott Barajas, and this is going to be year number 10 that he's going to be doing it. So congratulations on that decade accomplishment. And he also received the Bud Dwyer Junior Media Award from the Southern California High School Football Coaches Association in 2015. And in 2017, he was honored as a Jim Staunton Champion for Character by the CIF Southern Section. So a lot of great accomplishments. He's also a proud graduate of Cal State Fullerton, where he worked at the Daily Titan, the school newspaper, as a news reporter, sports reporter, managing editor, and opinion editor. So a lot of accomplishments right there, Dan. And as a journalist, I just got to say I'm pretty envious of you.
Well, thanks. That's nice of you to say, and I've been blessed.
Mm-hmm. So Dan, let's start from the beginning. Before you got to the Register, how did you and your family end up in Lake Forest? You went to El Toro, you were a classmate of mine, and how do you go from, Lake Forest to El Toro to ultimately the Register?
You know, a lot of my path has been, was writing for the school newspaper at El Toro and in the community paper in that area. The Saddleback Valley News was the paper. I was a former paper boy, and my favorite classes in school were English, and I liked sports, and I kind of combined those. And at Cal State Fullerton, I wrote on the Daily Titan, and I've had a lot of good mentors and a lot of worked with a lot of good people that helped me survive in a pretty tough industry, to be honest with you.
So was the Register hiring at the time? How did you go from? Did you have to intern at first? What was kind of that career path to get there?
My best story really with as far as career entry, I was again very blessed. I was working at the Daily Titan at Cal State Fullerton, and a sports editor who was an alum of Cal State Fullerton walked into the newsroom one day and wanted to know if anybody wanted to answer phones at the LA Times sports desk. And I raised my hand, and that was really my professional entry, was working on the prep desk at the LA Times when they had in Costa Mesa. And that's where I got some good mentorship, learned kind of fine-tune my basics and my skills, and that's kind of where I went from there.
I think that's a great story, because a lot of people don't realize when you get the opportunity, it might not be glamorous, it might not be what you want, but you raise your hand. Who wants to answer phones at the Times? But that got you in the door, and you were able to parlay that from there. My question is, a lot of the people who watch this show are high school students, and maybe they have an interest in the journalism industry. Do you have any recommendations in terms of what possible college, what kind of majors, internships, what they can do to help maybe be the next Dan Albano?
That's nice of you to say. My best recommendation is to work on your college paper. Work on your high school paper if you're in high school. Look for your community paper if there is a community paper where you can cover some local athletics, local high school athletics, even local community sports. I've done a lot of community sports, the little leagues and whatnot. Club sports are very popular. And then try to get an internship while you're in college and get those experience, get that writing clips, get those contacts, and then keep working at it. Be willing to put in a lot of hard work and keep grinding.
So you started, you said like in the early 90s. How much has the industry changed from when you started as a journalist to where we are right now? Or has it changed much?
Oh, it's changed a ton.
Okay.
There's a lot more high school coverage on different platforms than there used to be. You had to, back when I was coming up, you really relied on the print media. It was the Orange County Register, it was the LA Times when they were really strong in Orange County. They still are, of course, very strong, with their great writer, Eric Sondheimer. You had the Daily Pilot, which was, in the Newport Beach area that did it, in Costa Mesa area, did it really strong, but it was a print media mostly. Then there was a lot of community papers were pretty strong back then. I mentioned the Saddleback Valley News,
Sure.
but now the changes are digital, online, social media product. It's the digital age that's really, changed things. And, on the high school landscapes, that's really, it's exposed us to a lot more of high schools around the country, a lot more athletes around the country. It's connected us a lot closer than I think, probably isolated back in the day.
I mean, I can remember in high school, like after a win when we were at El Toro, I'd be up at 6 a.m. waiting for that guy to deliver the paper just to read the article because there was no internet. It's certainly not like it is now. Is the majority of your business now, would you say, digital? Do you still have a lot of print, or is it pretty much, what's the breakdown of percentage of digital versus paper? Or do you even get involved in that part of it?
I do follow it, and it's important. I think the best way to describe it, it's really a partnership. Digital is the future. Digital is the growth part of it that's expanding. And those are digital company, newspaper companies, media companies are watching their digital.
Okay.
And, those numbers are really important. Those online subscriptions really support us, and that's seen as the future because of the dwindling and kind of the cloudy future perhaps for print media. So they still work hand in hand. There's a lot of loyal print media people that still like the newspaper in their hands, and that's an important audience. So we have to we have to respect and work for all our audiences, whether they're print, digital. But they're really working together, and I see like the digital side helping the print side kind of thing.
Now, Dan, here at Sunset Rewind, Mo, Kevin, and I determine who covers games based on like location and who we've covered already and whatnot. How do you all at the Orange County Register determine who covers which game and which place and which time and whatnot?
Well, we do really look for the top games as far as the Orange County rankings, league title races. Those will kind of dictate a lot of what games we're covering. We have a prep sports coordinator for the Southern California News Group. We're pretty spread out now with a lot of proper newspapers in Inland Empire and Los Angeles, Long Beach, South Bay, San Gabriel Valley. There's a lot in our whole newspaper group. We have a really hardworking prep editor, Brian Patterson, that he's kind of quarterbacking all the different papers and the coverage. But we're looking for the top games with the top ranked teams and with a lot on the most on the line, and league championships when we get into league play.
So Steve can't throw his weight around being the veteran saying, I'm going to the Mission Los Al game, or there is a process.
We have to, Fryer and I have to arm wrestle every week.
All right, little Rochambeau.
We have to work together. Coming up, for example, like, one of the season opening games, Modern Day Centennial, is on a Thursday night. Steve and I are going to both be at that game.
I'll be there too.
Yes, there we go. It's going to be at Santa Ana Bowl. And, Steve's going to write a column. I'm going to write a game story. I think those are the early plans. But that's kind of gives you an insight on, Steve and I communicate on, what we're covering. Brian, and we have a lot of really talented freelancers that help us out.
I wanted to ask you about the All-Star game. I kind of misspoke on that last year. I was always getting the impression you and Steve, kind of like you took the South and he took the North, and you collaborated with the coaches. How involved are you with the selection process, both you and Steve, or are you at all?
Yeah, I've been really heavily involved with the All-Star game for a couple decades now. Okay. I've helped out with the North and the South, and right now I'm helping out with the North. And what I do is I help select a coach, talk to coaches about taking on the game. I send out nominee forms to the coaches and bring in the nominees, and then I hand those off to the coach. And then I offer to meet with them and offer my advice. I help a lot with talking to players and kids and asking them, hey, are you interested in playing? As far as players that maybe have fallen through the cracks, or guys that I know that might be interested in the opportunity. So I definitely assist, and I think it's it's a great opportunity for these high school seniors to play in that game. And there's a lot of different kinds of motivations. Kids are going to play their last football game. Right. Kids are looking for more exposure. Kids want to play with some of their friends that they grew up with on different high schools. There's a lot of things that go into that game.
Yeah.
Now, I actually have freelanced for the Orange County Register. I've did a couple of games for Brian. Big shout out to him and the opportunity to do so. Is the Orange County Register owned by a public individual or a private company or anything of that sort?
The owners are private. It's part of a media news group, which is a
conglomerate of other.
Yeah, which is owned by a hedge fund. Okay. So that's the ownership right now. It's been that way for a little bit now.
So Teran, you don't get to buy stock in the OC Register, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Maybe they'll go public someday. So I wanted to bring on some football topics. One of the things that, now that the dust is settled, I didn't like it at first, but I'm actually really liking it more now than ever. The new league format. What's your take on that?
I have probably mixed feelings about it. I've been doing this for a while, so I have a lot of tradition. I like tradition. I like some of the rivalries and the history of Orange County football. But I know we got to evolve. And Cal Preps I have been a big fan of Cal Preps. I think they do a great job. And I look at their website is a ton. I like that teams are grouped that should be playing each other. And I'm pretty happy that a lot of the local rivalries have survived. Mm-hmm. In this area, you still got Newport, Corona Del Mar playing. You still have Edison, Fountain Valley playing. Looking a little bit around Orange County, you still have Foothill, Tustin, El Dorado, Valencia. So I could kind of go on, but not all of them survive. Like La Habra, Sonora did not survive in the Freeway League.
Huntington Beach Marina, unfortunately, did not survive.
There you go.
Brett Brown said he was going to get that back on track in the coming years.
Yeah, so I think that's been good. And we'll see where, I know there's always a lot of talk about travel, but I think, relatively Orange County, travel compared to other places in the country, we really, it's not that bad. I think the Alpha League with only 4 teams is interesting. With I think the 4-team leagues have some pros, cons in them.
I feel like they I don't want to say got hosed, but they're the top 4 teams, so nobody around here wants to play them. So these guys are going to San Diego, Fresno, sometimes out of state just to get an opponent. And because there's only 4 teams in that league, they're only playing 3 games of league, which means they got to fill in 2 other spots. So that gets really challenging just from a scheduling perspective. Speaking of scheduling, I wanted to ask you about, you're very familiar with the Trinity League. Crean Lutheran and I believe it's Calvary Chapel are the only 2 non-public schools in Orange County that aren't a part of the Trinity League. Crean's kind of getting ready to go next level. They're supposed to have their best team this year, and then, as a matter of fact, this morning you guys they got a running back who's got some D1 offers, on top of a lineman who's got some D1 opportunities, another transfer from modern day, a defensive back. If they're going to kind of go in that direction and start bringing in ringers, how long do they stay in the league they're in versus just saying maybe it's time to go Trinity?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting where they go because Orange County Public Schools and the athletic directors, principals, they notice all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I was able to attend at least one. I think I attended one of the final area re-leaguing meetings last year. So I was able to kind of get the vibe and take a temperature in the room. And it can be kind of contentious for sure. And the public schools have a lot of things that they're working on. But, the new league thing that we're set up right now, it's a 2-year deal. So this is year 1 of year 2. So they're locked into the Epsilon League. Of course, that's a football-only league arrangement. Everything else for athletics for Crean Lutheran, they're part of the Century Conference. Okay. And that's kind of the big trend is to be in these big conferences for all the other sports. So we'll see how that goes. That's also a 2-year deal. So the trend is that the athletic directors and the schools themselves, they're looking at their alignments every 2 years. Things are going to start to potentially change.
So let's just say they rolled for the next 2 years. Okay, so after the 2-year contract is up, well, maybe they're Bravo now, maybe they're Alpha, maybe they are Trinity. So every 2 years they're going to reassess. So it's not like these leagues are stuck with some ringer for the next 5-6 years. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're part of that Orange County football conference is what it is.
Right.
That conference doesn't include the Trinity League. Trinity League is separate itself. It's nobody can play them. If you win the Alpha League this year, you're not going to the Trinity League.
Correct.
It's the Orange County Football Conference doesn't include them. So it could be interesting where it goes. There's a few people around Orange County, a few schools, public schools, that weren't happy where they landed, and you have some mixtures going on. One of them on the girls' side is like Rosary is going to be is an all-girls school. They're going to be in the Pacific Coast League Conference this year, so that's an interesting one dynamic. You have Sage Hill is also part of that conference. So there's a few mixing going on. But, football is the one that gets a lot of attention, and I could see Korean Lutheran, rising up out of into and getting moved out.
Right.
They're Trinity. They could have a Trinity future. Who knows?
So let's change directions a little bit. The top 150.
Yes.
Anybody? First of all, that's a lot of work. Okay, we just covered the teams from the Sunset League, and we're sweating bullets trying to get as much information as possible. You're covering all the teams in Orange County, ranking them. Do you ever get blowback like, how is this guy only number 87 and this guy number 10, or anything online through the years?
I get a few comments. It's mostly positive. I think I feel like I have a good connection with my audience that knows that I'm trying to spotlight 150 players from Orange County to watch as far as impact players. And I think people know the intent is I'm doing the best I can, and I'm trying to spread it out. Some of the feedback I got this year was, and a lot of it is is positive from the players that post and thank me for their selections, and I repost that. And some schools put up some graphics about players they got selected, and I enjoy all that. And that's a lot of the purpose of it, is highlighting the rich area we have for football. But some people maybe don't like the spreading it out as much as I do. I try to take I have a Trinity League podcast, and like you said, I because the teams are so strong, nationally ranked, I do put a lot of focus and feel like I do know that league well. But I write for the Orange County Register. I take a wide lens. I go to a lot of games that a lot of the followers of the Trinity League don't go to. And
Right.
I have to know about what's going on in North County and South County. I'm trying to cover all Orange County, so I feel like I have a good perspective, and I try to keep a wide net sometimes. And I think some people might want me to have a tighter net, and they don't like to see, or they want not they don't like to see, but they'll question some of my selections from schools that they maybe
are a little biased towards. And hey, look, they can make a 150 list if they want to try and have a shot at it. And let's see how their list turns out.
I think there was 15 players from Mater Dei. Could there be more? Did I leave off some players that definitely have scholarship offers and are outstanding? Yes, but I try to spread it around. And some of those players, we'll see. I do look at statistics and how much of an impact do they actually make. When you're the third, or when you're the fourth or fifth option on an offense, how much impact are you making? It's going to be, so some of those things, it's good debate. It's that, and like I kind of.
But that's half of it, right? Let's generate some conversation. Yeah. And we had Teran do a top 10 list last year, and it was a disaster. I mean, he left guys going to USC off the list. Remember Justin Tuanu'u? I mean, I could go on and on. It was.
Yeah, I wonder who gave me the backlash. Mo
I was
and
not
Kevin,
happy.
if you're watching. But I actually want to veer away from that a little bit and give you this question. The schools are actually adopting the whole Cal Preps thing for the playoffs, and every team is going to be in every division if they qualify for said playoffs. What are your thoughts on that? And does that give teams a better chance of playoff equity? Like, you don't get a ringer in Division 3 and whatnot, and you don't get someone that's undeserving in Division 2 or 1 that's probably going to get blown
when they
out.
dropped Pauly that year down to D4 and they just steamrolled everybody.
Yeah, or in girls volleyball, you had Beckman as the top overall seed, and they just pretty much stomped through everybody.
Yeah, I think the power rankings are doing a great job. I think Cal Preps is is making some great playoff divisions for football, and I think it's going to be interesting. How the new format this year, with the leagues being aligned the way they are in Orange County, and going by Cal Preps and a couple years of data, there should be some really tight games. And once you get into league play, you should be playing some pretty good teams with Cal Prep rankings. So it will be interesting if you do well in your league. It could probably bump you up. You're going to get a bump in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out this year with the balance of the Orange County leagues. And then across other sports, the power rankings are taking over all the rankings, all the playoff seeding. So I think we have to get to know what those power rankings are, and I think that's something that we'll learn more this year about how different sports are using. What are they using? Massey rankings? Are they using Max Preps? There's some different ones out there.
So, as a fan of sports through the years, I get a kick out of watching reporters having to interview certain coaches like Bill Belichick, Greg Popovich. Just seem very difficult. I'm not going to ask you to name names, but when you get assigned certain games, have there been coaches where you have to kind of frame your questions in a certain way, knowing that they can be difficult in terms of the back and forth, or the kind of answers they're going to give you?
To be honest, yes. There are some, there are some challenging aspects of my job in dealing with in interviewing coaches. In that, some of our articles, I'm a journalist. Some of the articles can be viewed as controversial. Some people might not think that we hit the mark with our balanced and fair reporting, though I know we definitely work on that, and we strive for that, to have balanced and fair reporting. But we cover some touchy subjects, and that can make some of those interviews difficult. But for the most part, Orange County is blessed with coaches. We're working with high school athletics, so it's different than the pros. But there's some things that can be challenging. We try to work through those, and move forward. And but there's some challenges with that.
Look, coaches can be sensitive, and I was one of them. Even just at the freshman level, when I got fans yelling at me, "Why aren't you throwing them for it?" It's like, so I get it. So you're not going to please everybody, but you're doing your job as best you can, and you're coming from a very genuine point of view. So it's not like you're looking to do hit pieces, but you got to tell the story the way you saw it.
Yeah, and for them, speaking about the coaches, they have a very difficult job, and I tell them that when I have some extended talks with them. They have a really challenging job. They have to balance a lot of things, like you said, with people yelling and referees and parents, and they have a lot of pressures on them. They work really hard. It's a year-round thing. There's a lot of competition. They have to sell their program. Their jobs have really changed over the years too, as they balance it. So I definitely have a lot of empathy for what they go through. But we have some fantastic coaches for the most part that are in it for the right reasons, about the kids, and they really work with us very well. And we're the bottom line is that as high school reporters, we are partners with the coaches in a lot of ways. We depend on them for information and assistance, and we get a lot of information from them.
And these coaches, they put their heart and soul into it. They spend a lot of time away from their families. So criticism is fair, but when it's unfair criticism, kind of coming from the peanut gallery, I get why they get frustrated and upset. So something to think about.
Now, Dan, I really want to ask this of you. Of all the athletes that you've covered from the beginning of time, being
not that old, Teran.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Beginning of your journalistic time, 1993, all the way up until now, who's on your Mount Rushmore in terms of those noteworthy and talented athletes?
All right, well, that's a great question, and it's a lot for me to think about for as long as I've been doing it. And so I got 4 picks. I would probably go on football. I could go, Deshaun Foster, who played at Tustin in the late '90s, was probably the best player I've covered.
Were you at that championship game when he went against the SC quarterback from Santa Margarita?
Yep, Carson Palmer.
Yeah, that was like one of the all-time classic games.
I was blessed to cover that game,
Okay.
and wrote a sidebar and covered that for the Register. So, but yeah, Carson is I put Carson on there as well. So there's 2. I covered. It's not Orange County, but Tony Azevedo in water polo at Long Beach Wilson. He was outstanding as well. So that's 3. So I got 1 more. So I think who's kind of getting on there. I want to throw in a female athlete as well, as Tegan Odell at Santa Margarita. Right now, she's going to be a senior. She's just rewriting Orange County swimming record. But So that would probably be my, as far as a female athlete, like to get that in there as well.
And there's a lot, but I mean, that's, you've been blessed to cover a lot of great athletes through the years. Dan, we know you're incredibly busy right now, and this is like, we're about a week away from kickoff, so I don't want to take too much of your time up. Again, let's promote a couple of the things you do outside of the Orange County Register. If people want to watch you with your coverage of the Trinity League, or you and Steve Fryer have a thing that you do, is it your weekly predictions?
Yes, Steve and I are going to be back. We've talked about it. You can find us on YouTube, on the OC Varsity YouTube channel. That's where we'll post our weekly picks.
Okay.
Teran,
I play along.
he plays
for
along.
fun.
And there's a few other people there as well, and we appreciate you playing along. Teran,
Of course.
he beats us a lot of times as well.
All right, Teran, send me the link. I'm getting involved this year.
Okay. Yes.
So yeah, Steve and I, we predict preview and predict about the top 4 or 5 games of the week. Just
Now, do you get heat for that when you pick wrong?
Oh yeah, we do. As
Bulletin board material.
As Steve likes to say, he says he jokes that we've written more pregame speeches than anybody. So that's what we and that's like one of the first things that we see. And but that goes to the excitement. The players like it. Players are always looking for motivation. Teams rallying cries. So that's part of our role. So look for that coming up next week. And
all right, Teran, we're going to have a side bet this year.
Yes.
The winner's taking the losers over to the goose next door. And we'll
You read my mind exactly, Mo.
All right, we're on it.
And you can follow the Trinity League Football Podcast. Scott and I, we just did our off-season top developments in the league, and we'll have our season preview. We hit that each week. You can follow us on X at Trinity FB Pod.
I was just scrolling through it the other day, and I saw your thing, and I hit play. I'm like, oh, wow. And I knew you were coming in a couple of days. I'm like, this is great. So I'm glad you had a chance to promote that. Well, listen, Dan, once again, we know how busy you are. We really appreciate you taking the time to come down here, and here's to a great 2024 football season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there. I've seen Teran out. I've seen both you guys out. I saw you at the Edison Passing Tournament.
Yeah.
I see Teran a lot, and looking forward to seeing you guys out there. And it was great to finally be here. I've been checking out your guys'
now you know
show.
where the studio is, right?
You know where the studio is, and it's I appreciate you guys having me on, and you guys do a great job. I love seeing all those kids in here that you've had doing different challenges and talking football with them, and we appreciate everything you guys do.
All right, buddy. Well, a rising tide lifts all ships, so let's keep collaborating and working together. Teran, do you want to say something?
Yeah, it's an honor to have you in the studio. It's really great that you were able to take time out of your day. He's Dan Albano. He's Mo Pottios. I'm Teran Rodriguez. Just remember, thank you to the California Showcase for sponsoring Sunset Rewind. February 22nd, 2025 in the Irvine Great Park in Irvine is when that event is going to be. Make sure to subscribe to us and like us on YouTube, Sunset Rewind. And also follow us on social media at Sunset_Rewind on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Instagram. And there you have it, everybody. He's Dan, and that's Mo Pottios.
And this is our new co-host, Teran Rodriguez. Sorry, Dole.
Sorry, Dole.
As a register hiring, he might be looking for a job.
Yep. Take care, everybody, and God bless.